Okay, so we're back with Dr. Chapik. He's a naturopathic physician here at A Place of Hope. I wanted to take a moment and talk with you about obesity and overweight. You know, one of the things that we hear a lot at our website is, do I have to be skinny to have an eating disorder? Because, you know, look at all the things I'm doing with food, but I'm overweight, so I feel misunderstood. And I know from talking with you and others here on the team that you actually see clients who are overweight, who struggle with obesity. So there really is a continuum issue there, right? That people need to be aware. Eating issues aren't just about being underweight.
Yeah, that's correct. So we do see it as a continuum, and we've had patients who have come to us. They're very underweight, 77 pounds was one patient. She left normal weight and then actually returned having become an overeater and couldn't stop eating and gained weight, and so we had to treat her at the other end of the spectrum. But it was very smooth for her to come back because
Isn't it all the same underlying stuff?
exactly.
Yeah.
It is.
It's always interesting to me. I host a support group, and we'll have some women who might come in, and maybe they're a little older or a little overweight at any age, and they'll say, you know, you young ones or you skinny ones need to know, I used to be just like you. And that they look at them like, no, you didn't. You couldn't have possibly been thin before. But you really can swing if you don't deal with those underlying issues. You can really swing from one extreme to the other pretty easily.
Exactly.
You know, gastric bypass and surgical procedures have become a big option. And I've heard some bariatric surgeons tell me the only viable option to lose weight effectively once you get to a certain point. What is the truth about that, and what are some of the downsides of doing a surgical procedure?
Well, surgical procedures, you're right, are becoming very, very common, and there's, you know, a handful of options. The gastric restriction and the Roux-en-Y procedure is the most common, and it is restricting the size of the stomach and causing malabsorption. And in medicine, that's usually a bad thing, causing malabsorption.
So where the body's not absorbing nutrients the way that it needs to?
Exactly. Both carbohydrate, fat, but also critical vitamins and minerals, which can lead to deficiencies and cause problems later on. Some of the I was just talking with a patient this morning who had a friend actually die after receiving gastric bypass surgery, and she had been thinking about doing it, and that was a deciding factor. And 1% is the statistic for mortality rate with gastric bypass, which may sound low, but 1 in 100 people is still 1 in 100 people.
Yeah, that's a lot. It can be.
Uh-huh.
So there are options then to
There-
not do the surgery?
Yeah, it's basically a very intense way to lose weight. It's a way that's fraught with it's just a very high level of force, as we talked about earlier, on the continuum of therapeutic order, and the person still is going to restrict their food intake, and the gastric bypass is just making them do that. And
not dealing with the underneath stuff.
Right,
Right? Which
exactly.
is what we talked about before.
Exactly.
Well, I know we're going to have you answer some questions, just some panel questions we've gotten in about that. I would encourage you guys to check those out. If you're considering gastric bypass, or someone you know or care about is, we're not saying that you should never ever do something like that, right? But we're
right.
saying let's be aware of all of the facts. It's not as easy as just doing a procedure and then everything's fine, because there's a lot of emotional stuff that led you to that place and that needs to be dealt with for you to go on and be healthy at whatever size your natural set point ends up being. So thanks for talking about that, and we'll look forward to seeing you in more videos.
Thank you.